Will want to hear this. The First Minister's meeting has just been canceled. That's one piece. We're also hearing that Sophie Trudeau, the Prime Minister's wife, is in self-isolation. We've got the host of Power and Politics, Vashi Kapelos, with more on that. You know, it's information that's just breaking, Vashi, so right now I know what you're getting are the bits and you're looking further into it, but what do you know right now?
Yeah, a couple of really significant things, Suhana. So about 10 minutes ago, I got a heads up about the First Minister's meeting that it was slated to be canceled. We now have a statement from the Prime Minister's office about why, and this is the really significant piece. It turns out that the Prime Minister's wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, returned from a speaking engagement in London recently, according to the Prime Minister's office. She began exhibiting mild flu-like symptoms, including a low fever, late last night. She sought medical advice, and she is being tested for coronavirus, for the COVID-19 virus. As a result, she is self-isolating and waiting for those test results. Her symptoms, according to the Prime Minister's office, again, have since subsided. Now, the doctor's advice to the Prime Minister, apparently, is to continue daily activities while self-monitoring, giving rather that he is not exhibiting any symptoms himself. However, the Prime Minister says, out of an abundance of caution, rather, his office says, he is opting to self-isolate and work from home until receiving Sophie's results. So both the Prime Minister and his wife, because of the symptoms she exhibited and the test she has undergone for COVID-19, are self-isolating. Based on that, the Prime Minister's office has canceled the in-person, quote-unquote, in-person First Minister's meeting. We know that that was slated to take place later today and into tomorrow. It will be postponed. However, the Prime Minister, as well as Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, will be convening the meeting. We'll speak with the First Ministers over the phone. The Prime Minister's office says to discuss our collective action to limit the spread of COVID-19 and keep Canadians safe. Now, if you're wondering what self-isolation means for the Prime Minister, his office says that he'll spend the day in briefings, phone calls, and virtual meetings from home, including speaking with other world leaders. My understanding is he's slated to talk to the leader of Italy, as well as Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK, and joining the special COVID-19 cabinet meeting discussion, I understand, by phone or virtually. So again, to recap, First Minister's meeting is canceled. The premiers will no longer convene in person, although a number of them are here in Ottawa. The Prime Minister and his wife are self-isolating at home, awaiting the results of Sophie Gregoire Trudeau's COVID-19 test.
I want to also ask you, Vashi, you know, how satisfactory that's going to be for the premiers. We heard from Ontario Premier Doug Ford earlier. He's got a host of things he wants to put on the table. We know that Jason Kenney from Alberta has a host of things he wants to put on the table, including oil and some of the payments reflected with that. So my question is, how long can the government keep them at bay, and how satisfactory will this phone-in kind of First Minister's meeting be?
Well, I think, you know, my guess would be, and again, I haven't had a chance, I just learned about this about 10, 15 minutes ago, to reach out to the Premier's offices. But my guess is that as long as they get some sort of meeting, I mean, the fact is, if the Prime Minister and his wife have to self-isolate, they just can't be in a grouping of people. You cannot have that lack of distance between yourself and other people. They have to actually isolate themselves before they get that test result. And so my guess would be that they won't be upset by the fact that they can't meet in person. Obviously, given current events, that meeting is of huge significance. The questions around money. We heard the Premier, for example, of Ontario, as you mentioned, Premier Ford, talking about an increase in health transfers and the money that they're going to need in order to combat this virus and the effects of it. All provinces are, you know, equally in need of that money, equally in need of help from the federal government when it comes to dealing with this very fluid and ever-growing, the ever-growing impact of this. And so I think the meeting is still very significant. As long as it appears it still will happen via phone. And remember, the Prime Minister is not exhibiting any symptoms himself. Even Sophie Gregoire Trudeau's symptoms, according to the Prime Minister's office, have subsided at this point. But, you know, as long as they get that meeting, I think, you know, I don't think that they're going to be saying anything about this.